taken a dramatic new turn, especially after renewed debates surrounding Nnamdi Kanu and the wider implications of his legal battle. What started as another heated political discussion is now being viewed by many analysts as something much bigger, a possible pressure point ahead of the 2027 presidential election. And now, opposition voices linked to Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, and Rabiu Kwankwaso are reportedly beginning to frame the entire issue as a test of leadership under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. For many Nigerians watching from home, this is no longer just about courtrooms, legal arguments, or political statements. It is becoming a national conversation touching on justice, unity, regional tensions, and even the future direction of the country. Reports and political commentary circulating online suggest that several opposition strategists may be preparing to use the controversy surrounding Kanu's situation as part of a broader campaign narrative ahead of 2027. Whether that strategy succeeds or not remains to be seen. But one thing is already clear: the conversation is getting louder, and Nigerians are paying attention. And quickly before we continue, if you enjoy balanced political updates explained in simple language, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others following Nigeria's political developments. Also drop your thoughts in the comments section, because this conversation is one many Nigerians have strong opinions about. Now, to understand why this issue is suddenly becoming politically explosive again, we need to step back for a moment and look at the bigger picture. For years, the case involving Nnamdi Kanu has remained one of the most sensitive political and legal matters in Nigeria. Supporters see him as a voice speaking for frustrations in parts of the southeast, while critics argue that some of the movements connected to his campaign created tensions across the country. The federal government, on the other hand, has repeatedly maintained that national security and constitutional order must remain priorities. But politics has a way of reshaping every national issue, especially when elections begin to approach. And according to several political observers, opposition figures may now believe the Kanu issue presents an opportunity to question the Tinubu administration's handling of national unity and political reconciliation. What makes this situation particularly interesting is that the opposition leaders being discussed are not from one single political background. Atiku Abubakar has long positioned himself as an experienced national politician with deep connections across multiple regions. Peter Obi continues to attract large support among young Nigerians and reform-minded voters. Rabiu Kwankwaso still commands strong grassroots loyalty, especially in parts of northern Nigeria. Individually, they remain influential, but politically, analysts say the idea of their supporters indirectly converging around criticism of the federal government could create serious pressure ahead of 2027. Now, it is important to be careful here. There is currently no officially announced coalition directly centered on Kanu's case. However, reports from political insiders and commentary from various public affairs programs suggest that strategists within opposition circles may be discussing how public frustration over insecurity, economic hardship, and unresolved national disputes can be politically connected into one larger campaign message. And that is where this conversation becomes even more significant. For many ordinary Nigerians today, daily life has become increasingly difficult. Food prices continue to rise. Fuel costs remain a concern. Businesses are struggling in some sectors. Families are adjusting to harsh economic realities. So, when an emotionally charged national issue resurfaces, especially one involving fairness, justice, or regional sensitivity, politicians naturally pay attention because emotions often influence elections as much as policies do. Some opposition supporters now argue that the federal government missed opportunities for dialogue and reconciliation earlier in the process. Others insist that allowing the issue to drag on for years has only deepened distrust in certain communities. Government supporters strongly disagree with that narrative. They argue that the administration cannot interfere recklessly in ongoing legal matters and that national security considerations cannot simply be ignored for political convenience. This disagreement is now creating a powerful political battlefield. In fact, some analysts believe the real battle is not necessarily about Kanu himself anymore. Instead, they say the bigger political struggle is over perception. Which side can convince Nigerians that it better understands the country's pain, fears, and frustrations? Which side appears more capable of preserving stability while also addressing calls for fairness and inclusion? These are the questions likely to shape future campaign messaging. And there is another layer many people are beginning to notice. Over the past few years, Nigerian politics has increasingly moved beyond traditional party loyalty. Voters are now more emotional, more vocal online, and more willing to challenge established political structures. Social media conversations can influence national debates within hours. A single statement from a political figure can dominate headlines across the country overnight. That means any sensitive national issue, especially one tied to identity, justice, or regional tensions, can quickly become politically influential. This may explain why comments connected to Kanu's case are now appearing more frequently in political discussions surrounding 2027. Opposition voices seem to understand that emotional issues often resonate strongly with voters, especially younger Nigerians who feel disconnected from traditional political messaging. At the same time, the Tinubu administration faces a difficult balancing act. On one side, it must project strength and commitment to national security. On the other side, it must avoid appearing insensitive to calls for dialogue or political inclusion. That balance is not easy in a country as diverse and politically complex as Nigeria. Interestingly, reactions from different regions have also shown how divided opinions remain. In some parts of the Southeast, there are continued calls for political solutions and reconciliation. In parts of the North and Southwest, opinions are more mixed, with many Nigerians focusing more on economic survival than political symbolism. Yet despite these regional differences, one thing connects nearly everyone: frustration with the current economic pressure facing ordinary citizens. And politically, that matters a lot. Because when citizens are under pressure economically, opposition parties often look for emotionally powerful issues capable of amplifying dissatisfaction with the ruling government. That strategy is not unique to Nigeria. It happens in democracies around the world. Opposition groups typically search for issues that can unite multiple frustrations into one larger political narrative. Some political commentators now believe the emerging strategy could involve portraying Tinubu's administration as disconnected from national reconciliation efforts, while simultaneously linking economic hardship to broader governance concerns. Whether voters ultimately accept that framing is another matter entirely, but the conversation itself is already shaping political debate. There is also growing speculation about whether opposition leaders who once competed fiercely against each other could eventually cooperate politically before 2027. Nigerians will remember how fragmented opposition votes affected previous elections. So naturally, discussions about alliances or strategic cooperation continue to attract attention. Still, there are major obstacles. Each major opposition figure has loyal supporters, personal ambitions, and different political calculations. Building a united front is far easier in theory than in practice. Political egos, regional interests, party structures, and leadership disagreements could all complicate any serious coalition effort. Nigerians have seen attempted alliances before that eventually collapsed under internal tensions. Yet, despite those challenges, many analysts say the opposition may feel encouraged by the fact that public dissatisfaction over economic conditions has created an opening for stronger criticism of the government. And if emotionally sensitive national issues continue dominating headlines, that opening could grow even wider. Meanwhile, supporters of President Tinubu argue that the administration inherited extremely difficult challenges and needs more time for reforms to produce visible results. They point to ongoing policy changes, infrastructure discussions, and long-term economic goals as evidence that the government is working towards stability. Some government allies also accuse opposition figures of politicizing sensitive issues purely for electoral advantage. That accusation itself has become another major talking point. Should sensitive national matters be used in political campaigns? Or is it normal in a democracy for opposition parties to challenge the government using controversial national issues? Nigerians remain divided on that question. What nobody can deny, however, is that the political temperature is already rising long before official campaign season begins. Conversations that once stayed within activist circles are now entering mainstream political debate. Television discussions, radio programs, newspaper columns, and online platforms are all increasingly focused on possible 2027 scenarios. And perhaps that is the clearest sign of all that Nigeria's political landscape is entering another intense phase. Now, before we wrap up, if you've made it this far, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more balanced Nigerian political analysis, and share this discussion with friends and family. Your comments also help keep these conversations active, so tell us what you think about the growing political debate surrounding 2027. As things continue to develop, Nigerians will be watching closely to see whether these discussions remain political rhetoric or eventually transform into major campaign strategies. The coming months could reveal whether opposition figures truly intend to build around these issues or whether new national concerns will completely reshape the conversation again. For now, one thing is certain: the road to 2027 is already taking shape, and every major political movement, statement, and controversy will continue to attract intense public attention. Stay informed, stay engaged, and as always, thank you for watching.